Hello, hello. What's
Hey,
going on, everybody? Running Routes podcast in the house, week 4. How's
let's
it going,
go.
boys?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Eddie in the house. Let's go.
Hey, Nick back in the house for another good one. Let's get it.
Let's go.
Let's get it rolling. Week 4.
Week
Charlie.
4 on the blocks. Thursday night show out. First game of the week. Nice one. You got the undefeated Bills. Had a nice big win there against Buffalo. Took advantage of that beat up team, and they're going into Cincinnati. And Cincinnati got their first win last week, and I think they're looking to keep the ball rolling. How do you guys feel about this? In that last game, Tua was pretty injured, and they're like, oh, it's a back problem. Even if it's a back problem, you're letting that man go back in and start throwing again. Like, it's a little.
Yeah, it's pretty
I don't know
sus.
how you guys like that Tua situation. How do you like this game?
It's pretty suspect. It really is. I mean, they're talking about looking into it, the situation, the whole concussion protocols being put into question, and did they do things properly and things like that. I'm picking the Dolphins tonight, right? And it's crazy. It means like you bring that up, you know what I mean? You bring up the whole thing. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go Dolphins anyway. I'm taking the Dolphins because Stephen A talked me into it. I'm blaming Stephen A on this pick. So if the Dolphins don't win, it's Stephen A's fault. He talked me into it. You know what I mean? Hit me with this wild legendary story on legends and things, and it captivated me. And I was just like, yeah, nobody's gonna cover them too. You throw it 5 yards, you throw it 15 yards, you throw it 20 yards. Dolphins, bro. I'm taking the Dolphins. Dolphins. What do you got, Nick?
Eddie, I would be with you. Like I've been the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks with the Dolphins. I've kind of been on the bandwagon. They definitely set the tone for that. But I'm going Cincinnati this week just because I think the overall quarterback, as far as the injury with Tua, like you said, and then I just think Joe Burrow, even without the injury, is a better quarterback.
Definitely
But
better.
I can't take away what you said. Miami's offense is prolific, and what they've done up until this point is definitely interesting to see
Defense.
going forward. But I think since he's kind of in need of a win, and I feel like they've started off slow, and I think they're going to bounce back tonight.
Yeah, I'm on board with what Nick said. The quarterback comparison right there, Burrow's on a different level than Tua. I'm not buying Tua yet. Good showings, but I think they poured out the tank last week to beat Buffalo. You're going into a juiced up Cincinnati stadium, and they'll have them white and black stripes on. They're gonna be hungry. They're gonna be ready. So I'm going Bengals. Burrow shines. What do you
Yeah,
got, Brady?
I'm same boat. I like the Bengals. Sorry there, Eddie. You can be the only one on the Fins.
Hey.
They're a team to root for right now, but yeah, they went all out against Buffalo, and they played all their cards. And Bengals are they're on the rise. They started off slow. They needed to get things back together. The offensive line's starting to look somewhat decent now. Their wide receivers are getting healthy. And again, this is an offense that can go toe to toe with Miami if they play well. And Dolphins defense hasn't been spectacular. I mean, they've made their stops, but I like Cincinnati to just edge this one out here tonight. Anything else to add?
That Miami defense held back Buffalo, and they stopped Baltimore and held that prolific man. I don't know. It's gonna be a hell of a game.
When they needed to.
I think it's a close one. 28-24 maybe. That's my score prediction.
31-23 Bengals.
It's just I haven't seen enough from either team. It's like it's hard. It's we were talking about this before, Charlie. It's
early
hard
in the season.
It's hard. It's still really, really, really early. It's like, are you buying in on any of these teams yet? Are you selling on any of these teams? Yeah. It's just too early. It's too early. But it's fun to do this, though. It's fun to throw. I mean, look, man, they stopped Buffalo's offense. So, I mean, everybody says Josh Allen. I mean, now, Agba and them boys, and, now they're capable. If they're capable of stopping Josh and them boys, they're definitely capable of stopping Joe Cool. And them Cincinnati Bengals ripped them stripes off,
Burrow's coming with the smoke today.
I feel you. I love me some Burrow, man. I'm going Fins tonight. Let's go. Let's go, blowholes.
What we got next, Brady?
Alrighty. Sunday games. First one, 9:30 in the morning. We're going over across the pond there, going to London. The Saints are giving up a home game, so they're home in London, and they got bringing in the Vikings. Who's the better travel team here? Is this technically a spotlight football game where Kirk Cousins is gonna not play well? his typical fashion where he fails in the spotlight. Is it one of those scenarios? It's a tough one. So I almost want to go Saints here because that Vikings defense is not stopping anything, but the Saints offense hasn't shown me enough for me to actually pick them. So that's why I got to go Vikings, because at least I know they can put points up on the board. The Saints, they got beat up by Tampa, and then they got beat up last week against the Panthers, and their offense isn't doing enough. So I have to go Vikings here.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you, Brady. I think this is gonna be much easier for Minnesota to be victorious in this. It just seems like Jameis been struggling. Seems like they kind of just the Saints kind of like just have been struggling all together. You know what I mean? Like to just try and get. I mean they've come back, to beat Atlanta, real in crazy fashion right there at the end, but. First one of the season to pull that out, but it just looks like everybody's not on the same page over there. Neither's Minnesota in the defense, but I'm making a case that Kirk Cousins and they'll be able to put that train on the track this week and get it going for that offense to be successful, and Jamar Jefferson and O'Brien will get things going, right? So Brian, is it the is that the coach or the offensive coordinator over there? O'Connell. Sorry. O'Connell. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, head coach.
I look for them to get it on the track this week.
I gotta agree with both you guys. I'm going Minnesota Vikings as well. Basically you guys pretty much touched everything there is to touch about the Saints. Jameis has been struggling. They're struggling to put up points on the board. Vikings only put up 7 against the Eagles, but a very good Eagles team. I do believe that they're capable of putting up points if they can get it together. They struggled that game, but some low-key injuries. I know Dalvin Cook and their fullback C.J. Ham, and then Eric Kendricks and Harrison Smith were all struggling with some injuries. Harrison Smith had a concussion along with Eric Kendricks, and then Dalvin Cook had a shoulder injury. I know they've been practicing, so we'll see going forward if all those guys are playing, but I still think the Minnesota Vikings edge out the Saints, a struggling Saints team, and a struggling quarterback at Jameis Winston.
Yeah, you guys did a good job. The injuries don't stop on that side of the field though too, because the Saints are Michael Thomas banged up his toe last week. Yeah, Jarvis Landry limited a lot this week in practice. And Jameis is still playing with fractures in his back. I don't know to the extent of it. Obviously, he played last week, but he's still getting hit. That Carolina defense was all over them. Their offensive line is definitely a concern. You got all this stuff still swirling around Kamara. The offense didn't look good. I mean, the lone bright spot was Olave. He looks like a legit stud, but if something happens to Jameis and he can't make it through this thing, is banged up and as rough as Minnesota's defense has been so far. Andy Dalton doesn't excite me. I think that just takes Olave's value down. I think Minnesota, to answer your question, is this like a primetime game? I think it's the opposite way. I think he turned it earlier for Kirk Cousins. He's going to have a great game. I think Minnesota runs away with this. I'm liking it 24-7 Vikings.
I wanted to touch on a few more injuries since you did mention the Saints. Their injury report for the game coming in, you got Jarvis Landry, like you said, ankle, Deontay Hardy, foot, running back Alvin Kamara, rib, safety Marcus May, rib, tight end Taysom Hill, ribs, cornerback Peloso Adeo, ankle. So, yeah, there's some guys that definitely same.
And these two teams have some history together. The legendary playoff game, which in turn ended up allowing this new rule to be ensued, which is you to throw a challenge flag, and now you're capable of challenging. And this is why we have that rule. This is why, because these two teams have played in a playoff game, and it looked like they got robbed on the play, man. It looked like they got robbed, and they called the pass.
2 years in a row, because there was the Minneapolis Miracle the year before that.
So, yeah, so it's interesting.
Stephon Diggs hopping over a dude because the dude didn't want to get a targeting call, so he went low.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Yeah, it'll be a good game, but I think across the board we're Vikings all the way. They're
taking the Vikes.
That offense is just out. They're outmatching the Saints.
They bounced back nicely off that Philly loss a couple of weeks ago, and the Saints off the Tampa Bay loss did the opposite. So, I mean, two teams, I think, trending in different directions.
Yeah,
It's a
agreed.
testament. It's a testament to the other two teams. I mean, Tampa's legit, Philly's legit, and you could see that. That's why the Saints are struggling. I mean, the Saints are a decent team, but they're going to struggle against Minnesota.
Agreed. Alrighty, let's touch on these 1:00 games. Starting out, Cleveland Browns going into Atlanta Falcons. Cleveland's a 1-point favorite as the away team. They're running the ball good. No matter who they're going up against, they're running well. And Jacoby Brissett over there is making smart throws. Doesn't have to force anything. But it's kind of similar fashion though with Mariota there in the Falcons. He's nothing special, but he's got the weapons around him. I mean, Kyle Pitts is ridiculous athlete. You got Drake London as one stud of a rookie wide receiver out there for him. And then you got Cordero Patterson when you can put him wherever you want on the field and he's going to shine. So I actually do like the Falcons here. I'm going to go the Falcons just because I think the weapons on that offense, despite that Amari Cooper finally did show up really well last week for the Browns, but I like all the weapons that the Falcons have and just easy play calling over there for them. So I'm going Falcons.
Interesting. Yeah, I can't agree with that. I want to agree with that. I mean, everything you're saying makes sense. I mean, you look at the, Jacoby Brissett, he's got, 92 attempts, 61 completions, 596 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Mariota, 79 attempts, 50 completions, 640 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. You're going to get the mistake clearly from Mariota is going to do too much in this game. Cordell Patterson, 300 yards on the year, 2 touchdowns. Nick Chubb, 341 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's the difference for me in the two backs. Cordell Patterson's going to get the yards. He can get the yards down on the goal line. The question is Arizona going to be put in the position? Not Arizona, excuse me, Atlanta. Is Atlanta going to put themselves in the position? I see potentially Atlanta playing from behind in this game and, them just controlling the clock and controlling the ball down on the ground. I mean, Chubb's definitely hard to stop. And let's be real, that offense is built to run the ball. And, I think they have the DBs, the secondary, and I think that offensive line is going to struggle against Myles Garrett and what they're doing. And
Garrett in this week?
Garrett's not in this week? Garrett's out?
He stepped up off the car accident.
I'm going to take a page out of your book, Eddie.
It says he's questionable, so I'm looking at it. He's questionable.
What I have is he did not participate in the last 2 practices. Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, and Amari Cooper. Some big names right there. So
I was hearing that Jadeveon Clowney could play this game. No,
they're not. None of them are listed out yet.
Right.
These are all people who haven't participated in practice the last 2 practices.
Right.
But with that said, I have to agree with Brady. Otherwise, I would agree with you, Eddie. Just for right now, like Amari Cooper is not even injury related, so who knows what's going on there. So I know that the Falcons have looked decent on offense, and I've been picking against Cleveland because I felt like they've been the worst team week in and week out, and they kept surprising me. But I got to take the Falcons this week too. I think they got some stud wide receivers out there making some plays. Their run game, like you said, Cordell Patterson's still doing it again this year, which, we is not really expected. He's been in the league so long that he had a good year last year, and then here he is, following up with that same energy and that same build up to a season. So I'm going Falcons.
Yeah, I gotta be the 3-1 here. I haven't been impressed with Cleveland's defense so far this year, and I was, we talked about it. That was going to be where they were going to hang their hat, defense and running the ball. Now the run game has definitely showed up. Chubb's been an absolute beast. And Jacoby has played well. He's managed the games and he hasn't put them in bad situations. But Atlanta has been sneaky right there in every week this season. They should have beat the Saints in the week 1 game. They had an opportunity to beat the Rams the following week, and they took care of business finally against Seattle last week. Weapons, like you guys mentioned, with London and Pitts and Patterson. I like them at home. I think it's going to be a close game because both these teams seem to play to the level of the competition. So I could really see it going either way. I'm a err on the side of the Falcons because of special teams. Their kicker's been really good. The guy Koo, and they blocked a punt a couple weeks ago against the Rams too. So I'm gonna give the edge to Atlanta, and they end up winning it.
Yeah, I like this game. I like this game better than if I think most people are looking at it just as a whatever game, because both these teams are Browns are looking to stay relevant. So if Deshaun Watson comes back and he still is the same player he was 2 years ago, they're gonna they want to be in a position for him to succeed. And then the Falcons are looking to build off of where they can build from. So I mean, they don't want to count themselves out. Nobody's a quitter in the NFL. So
I want to touch on the injuries again real quick. There's only one on the Atlanta side of the ball, and I just read that Myles Garrett was in a car accident.
Yeah.
He flipped his car.
And so that's where the
Hurt his
injuries are
shoulder.
coming from. So I mean, that's a tough thing that's the tough thing to just come in and start playing football again. So we'll see.
Well, if anybody can do it, definitely that's one of the guys. And to touch on what you said about the Mariota Brissett thing, I mean, you're absolutely right. Brissett's not going to be the guy to turn it over. So he is going to keep the Browns steady, and that run game is going to stay steady. And they're going to be able to methodically work their way down the field. The reason why I like Atlanta a little bit more is, Mariota does bring the propensity to kind of turn the ball over sometimes. But they also have big play capabilities. So if it's a tight game, they need to make up some chunk yards. I mean, having Drake London and Kyle Pitts at your disposal, and even the Zacharias or Zacchaeus, the little guy they got, he's got 2 touchdowns on the year. He's been making plays. So, they're getting contributions across the board on Atlanta. Their defense is porous, though, so I could see Cleveland definitely controlling it enough to get that lead, like you said, and kind of sit on them. We'll have to see, though, because Cleveland's let everybody back in the door up to this point, too. So it's definitely a tough one.
No doubt.
Alrighty. Next 1:00 game. You got the Washington Commanders going into the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys a 3-point favorite. Washington and that O-line just got beat up by Philly last weekend, and Cowboys had that Monday night win against the Giants. And I think they continue the trend. I think Cowboys, that their pass rush, despite Randy Gregory getting hurt and banged up a little bit, he's questionable. Well, or is it DeMarcus Lawrence?
It's DeMarcus Lawrence.
They lost Randy Gregory. It's
Gregory's
DeMarcus
on Denver now.
Yep, Gregory's out. But so DeMarcus Lawrence getting banged up. He's questionable, but still, there's still the pass rush front there, and I think the trend continuing from what Philly did to Washington and giving Wentz one hell of a time to make anything happen. So I got to go Cowboys here. I like their front and their smart play calling on offense.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely seems like the better team to me. Dallas is definitely a tough team. There's no doubt about it. No matter who's at the helm, whatever quarterback you want to have back there, they're gonna put up a fight because they're just such a solid team. I mean, I think the stat is their team has the most draft picks on their team than any other team in the league. So what that's saying is that they have a knack for bringing in talent, and that's a testament to it right there, that the entirety of their team is basically people that they've homegrown. So and I mean that's another reason why they're a very talented team, is because they're capable of doing that. And Washington has just been struggling, and I think that this is going to be a low scoring game. I don't think it's going to be that high of a scoring game without Dak. I'm sure Cooper will put a few in there, but they're going to run the ball with Zeke, and it's going to be a Zeke Pollard affair. I see happening against this Washington team, letting up 128 yards a game. So yeah, I see it happening. Very, very possible for Dallas to go up and control the ball, but they might struggle scoring as well. I mean, Washington plays Dallas well. They do. It's a divisional game, and these are the games that are going to go like that. Just like the Giants game, Giants lost. Hats off to Dallas. Giants lost, but they were in that game the entirety of that game. The Giants were capable of winning that game, and it's just a divisional game. No matter how good Dallas is, the record will never amount to what the teams in the division are. And, this is going to be a banger. This is going to be a good game. It's going to be a fight. But I'm going Dallas with Brady because Dallas is the better team on paper. Dallas is the more accomplished team at this point with their record and what they've been doing. So, and again, they got Wentz, and Washington's kind of been struggling. They haven't been the team that we've seen, with the McLaurin and things like that. It's just a different team. You got Curtis Samuel leading the way. It's just a different dynamic, and I think that they're just getting used to it. It's not that they're a bad team. They're just finding their identity right now. I'm going Dallas.
Same page there, Nick?
Yeah, basically everybody, you guys said everything that pretty much needed to be said. Dallas, for sure, this week for me too. Carson Wentz struggled really bad last week, 9 sacks. Means clearly offensive line is struggling against teams with good defensive lines, and Cowboys just happen to be another one of those teams. Like you guys said, the pass rush is going to be too much for Wentz again this week. I think it's a closer game than everyone thinks, but I also think it's low scoring, like you said, Ed. But Dallas for me.
Got the upset here. The reason why I got the upset is the Commanders are going to command in the penalty game because Dallas is continuing where they left off last year and they're shooting themselves in the foot. I think the receiver trio that they have working over there for Washington with Samuel and Terry and the rookie Dotson, I think they're going to go quick passing attack. I think they're going to hit him with Gibson. Gibson's traditionally had success against the Cowboys running the ball. And still right now, unless you get Gallup back in the fold, I don't feel like Dallas is explosive enough. And it's tough to beat teams consistently on those 10 to 12 play drives. And you're right. Divisional game, it's always going to be closer. I got the Commanders pulling this one out. I don't think it's going to be pretty. I like it 24-20. Maybe they get them at the end. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Cowboys win, but all along I've kind of thought since Dak went out, they're going to have to kind of float the boat, and that's going to come with some losses and some down games, some reality checks for them. And they definitely need a reality check on the amount of penalties they've been committing, and at bad times too.
I'd love to see Dallas. I would love to see Dallas deploy Tolbert, their draft pick. I can't remember what college he's out of, but he's a later round pick, and
he must not have a grasp on the offense because the opportunity's been there. But Noah Brown has performed very well, so that's probably why he's taken a little bit more of a backseat.
Alabama.
You touched on the fact that, or Eddie touched on the fact that. They have the good running back combo there in Cowboys, but you got to also look back at last week. They may have gotten beat up by Philly, but they held Philly to 72 yards rushing on 30 attempts. So this isn't a team that's just going to be easily run over, and that can play into Charlie's favor here, picking Washington, where if you can't get the run game going and you force Cooper Rush to be a passer on third and longs, then it becomes an issue.
It could be a long day.
I do think they're hopeful that Gallup gets to play this week, though. I think he was trending towards that way.
Well, as of right now, he's still questionable.
Participant in practice the past 2 weeks. It's still going to take him some time to get up to game speed, I think. Even if he plays.
It says he's questionable.
Cowboys are banged up on offense, but that defense is nice. Man, that defense is nice.
It says he's questionable, but you're right, Brady. I completely agree. But Dallas offensive line is playing well, and it's two different type of backs. That you're getting.
Jason Peters in there at left guard, and he was looking good.
Yeah, I've seen that. No more tackle for him, putting him in a guard. That's interesting. That is very interesting. I'm wondering if the Eagles had ever done that, or if they always just put him back out at left tackle.
Hell of a lot more athletic when he was with Philly.
Oh, no doubt. But I'm just saying, I'm just wondering if they were like, all right, well, you don't have the burst anymore to be a left tackle. You should be a guard.
Tyler Smith has been playing well enough to stay at that left tackle spot because he technically is their future at left tackle. If Tyron Smith
for sure,
on the near his end of his contract, despite being as good as he is, and the way they're handing out contracts to these big guys, that they're passing on these offensive linemen and going on to the next young buck that's ready. So I'm not super surprised by it. The only thing I thought would happen was Tyler Smith would be more on the left guard and they'd be kind of floating around a left tackle there for the league, but he's playing well there at left tackle, and so they're keeping him there.
Right.
But all right, next game, you got the Seattle Seahawks going into the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions are the number 2 offense in the league, scoring offense in the league right now. That is
Crazy.
absolutely insane right now.
They're
But
number
they're a
3.
4-point favorite here at home, and I have to stick with it. Seahawks, their defense is still banged up. Their offense isn't doing enough to keep up with the way this Lions team is scoring, because it doesn't matter who they're playing against. They're putting up, high 20s or low 30s every week. So I like the Detroit Lions here. Just that offense, even Swift banged up. Jameson Williams is next man up, and he's killing it too. There's no stopping that run game right now. It looks like the way that offensive line is all the hype it was at the beginning of the season. So they're holding their own. I got to go Lions.
I think I've seen some crazy stat. I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go Lions too, but I don't think this game's going to be a pushover by any means. I think between the first 3 weeks, I think the top 2 DBs in the league are coming from Seattle right now against the pass defense, and that's Traquan Woolen and Michael Jackson, DBs out of Seattle. They're the top pass defenders in the league right now. In the first 3 games. Again, it's early, right? The buying and the selling of things, and this team is this and this team is that. It's really, really early to start getting involved in any of that. But I think it's very interesting. And then on the flip side of that, right? Wouldn't it Amon-Ra St. Brown, like one of the I forget what the stat is, highest receiver or top receiver in the league right now with yards over 20 yard plays or something like that. I forget what the stat is for.
Sure. I know he's killing it.
For Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I had said that he was gonna be good coming out of college, and he got off to a slow start but had a strong finish. And you're seeing right now in this season here how he's just carrying on the end of the last one into the new one, and he's looking real good and good for Detroit, good for the fan base, and good for everybody in Detroit. That Detroit's doing good, and Seattle's not a knock on you, but you had your time to shine, and now you the crab in the bucket, and you're trying to get out. So I'm going to Detroit Lions here because yes, they have been a scrappy bunch, but just now they got a win under their belt, and I think they're going to try and get another one. I'm going to the Detroit Lions as well. How about you, Nick? What do you got?
3 in a row. Detroit Lions over here as well. Kind of what you were saying, Brady. I don't think this isn't going to just be an easy win for the Lions, but I think the offense is too much. They've shown that they're capable of scoring high points, and I think they're going to do so again this week. But the mediocre defense from the line is also going to allow the Seattle Seahawks to put up points as well. So I think it's going to be some points on the board. And we all know Geno Smith has definitely exceeded expectations, beyond probably anybody's belief coming into the season. He's definitely played well enough to continue to do so. I think he'll continue to do so is what I mean. But I have it at tight 131-28, the Lions edging out the Seattle. I just don't think Seattle's got the guys, the horses to avoid 0-3. You know what I mean? It just so happens they're playing a tough Lions offense, and I just don't think they have the guys to avoid
the Detroit Lions have their third in offensive yards accumulated. They have the third most offensive yards in the league this year. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, no, you guys said it. You said it real good. I mean, Eddie, with the Seattle's defense, their defense is scrappy as they are, young, trying to prove themselves. They're going to keep that team in a lot of games.
Boa Mafe.
And as good as the Lions have been on offense, they're going to have trouble. They're going to have trouble against Seattle. Nick's right. Detroit's defense has been porous. That's kind of been the reason why they're the best 1 and 2 team that you look at probably across the league at this point in time. I'm going Lions. I think it's a close one like you guys do. Definitely a one-score game. I got it 24-17.
Alrighty. Yep. Lions across the board. Hard to argue. Haven't seen enough from Seattle. But let's jump into the next game. You got 2 AFC South teams, both coming off of big wins. And finally, these teams showing up. Not that we wanted the Las Vegas Raiders or the Kansas City Chiefs to lose. We weren't fans of that at all. We're not trying to root against anybody, but we just want to see good football. And both these teams should be better than the starts that they had. It was nice to see them wake up. Titans had the win against the Raiders, and pretty handily. They were dominating there from the first half, and then they just kind of cruised in the second half. And then the Colts, similar scenario. They kind of lucked out there on a few calls and a few plays there in the second half to hold KC back and not lose the game. But they both got their wins last week, and the way this matches up, it's hard because the Colts are banged up again. That their whole defense, I think, is on the injury report right now. So I want to take the Titans because of that, but I'm going to take the Colts because they should be the better team. They need to be the better team, and I just don't know if the Titans have enough outside of just controlling the clock if they get a lead. So I've got to go Colts here, just edging them out with points here. Whether it's a late game or if it's being the fact that the Colts can put more than 3 drives together to score points.
Yeah. I gotta go. Colts here as well. I mean, Tennessee's defense letting up a lot of yards, man, and I think Matt Ryan and them are really starting to click. And I think they won last week. Against a Kansas City team who looked like they were unstoppable the first 2 weeks. So you got to hand it to the Indianapolis Colts on that one there. Shutting down the Kansas City Chiefs is no easy task to begin with, and to just win that game and get that off their back and win against a good team such as they did. Matt Ryan, 2 touchdowns, 222 yards, no interception. Okay, because we had some interceptions and we were like, whoa, that's not very Matt Ryan-esque. So to come out of that game, 37-27, 2 touchdowns, 222 yards, that's good. That defense got an interception on Mahomes. They allowed a touchdown, and they gave up 262 yards in that game. That was a hell of a game for the Indianapolis Colts, and definitely a tremendous win. And I just think they're just going to carry that momentum from that game, beating that team into a Tennessee team that's still trying to find out who they are and how they're going to do it. You know what I mean? It's just I think Tennessee's going to continue to struggle, and I think we're going to be looking at a 2-1 Tennessee Titan team. I don't know about you, Nick, but I'm going Indy.
I'm going to completely disagree with you. Just based off of, I don't think that the Colts win over the Chiefs was as impressive as everybody sees it because they got the W. The Chiefs shot themselves in the foot the entire game. The run game was almost completely absent. Edwards-Helaire had 7 carries for 0 yards. He had a touchdown, but it was on the goal line. McKinnon had the same amount of carries, and he had like 12 yards. And then Mahomes had like 30 yards. Mahomes had like 20 yards rushing on the ground. The run game was almost absent for the Chiefs. They kept shooting themselves in the foot. There was silly special teams play by the Chiefs early in the game. I mean, there was one where they missed that extra point, and they came down, almost missed a second field goal, but then on that punt, they kicked it, and then the punt returner just let the guys put it down on the 1-yard line. They cleaned up the special teams play in the second quarter going into the second half, but still couldn't get they also struggled in the red zone. They get down in the red zone, they couldn't punch it in. So the Colts were really just staying afloat, and even with some Colts turnovers and some good special teams plays, they weren't punching it in either. But it took them to the fourth quarter to a last drive where Matty Ice stayed cool and got them down. But good receiver play too from the Colts. I'm not taking that away. I like what them guys are doing. They're making these plays, doing their assignments, catching the ball. You know what I mean? No big drops or anything like that. But Jonathan Taylor, if he doesn't get in the end zone this week, I'm going Titans this week. I think I agree with you guys as the Colts should be. I think that momentum, they do carry it with them, but I think Tennessee, they stepped it up last week, got their win, and I think they both have momentum. I think it's a matter of the Colts really haven't been playing that well, even in this game against KC. They just kind of got to the end there and were able to take over a struggling like a sloppy Kansas City team. Not a struggling Kansas City, but a sloppy team that week. So I'm going to go Titans.
Also had the fake field goal Kansas City did. They definitely should have won that game. But the Colts played sound, and they rallied, and they made the plays that they needed to do. And at the end of the game, Matt Ryan led them on the drive for the touchdown, put them ahead. So they did what they needed to do. The thing, I'm going Colts. The reason why I'm going Colts is last year Tennessee was able to hang their hats on defense, and that was helping them get through just about every game, and that's why they were the number one seed, Henry being hurt and all that good stuff. You guys are right. They haven't found themselves in a lot of ways in Tennessee, and that defense is giving up points every single game.
A lot of
I
yards.
think the Colts are going to be able to score. I think the Titans are going to be able to score too in this one of those division matchups that we talk about where it's going to be tight. I like it 31-24. I think there's points in this. I think Henry's going to be able to run the ball as banged up as the Colts defense is. You're right, Brady. But on the flip side, Tennessee's not offering a lot of resistance. They might have looked a little better against a Raiders team, which is clearly going in 3 different directions. But I like the Colts this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. They're both letting up over 20 points a game. I mean, it's tough, you know, and they're both not even scoring 20 points a game. That's what's even more crazy about this is they're letting up 20. Tennessee Titans letting up 28 points a game, scoring 13. Indianapolis Colts letting up 13-3. I mean, putting up 13-3 a game, letting up 20.3. So, I mean, statistically, this game should be a tie.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't help when the Colts get washed by Jacksonville and get a goose egg on the board. So
at all, dude, at all, you know.
But that's week 2. We're on to week 4 now.
Right? Yeah, exactly. We're on a new week. It's a new day. Yeah.
And that Colts get to go by their motto. You know, we're 1-0. Let's keep the gate train rolling. You know, let's see what the next game is. That's like their motto for the year or whatever. And everybody was making fun of them, like you're not 1-0 yet. How can you have that motto? So.
But it's a long season. You got to take these things one game at a time. Looking ahead, looking behind, not really going to do anything. You focus on what it was. It was interesting to note. I was reading through. Jonathan Taylor missed his first practice ever. Not in high school, not in college, not in NFL. Missed his first practice this week ever. Not something that's going to stop him from playing this week, I don't believe. But he missed his first practice.
That's crazy.
Man's a workhorse.
Interesting.
Next game, Battle of